Hi. You started off first. Right?
Hello, everybody. Hello there. It's been a long time. Should never left you. Need to step. Baby girl.
Oh, did you really just open up with Aaliyah?
Yes, I did.
Oh my God.
Leah was a big time person that started with the letter A, so it makes sense for the Avengers, which is another big A. Okay. Hi. So you got to follow that. I can't follow that one. All right. Anyway.
That's a hard act to follow.
Yeah.
Nah.
Guys, we're here pretty much to give our group thought on Avengers. Yes. So we're all gonna take turns and give our thoughts. We're gonna talk about some of the Easter eggs that were in the series, in the show. Why are you looking at me? Man, you sound all somber, man. Yeah, I gotta be somber now because you started off with that Leah nonsense. And, so, other than that,
15 years. And we mess it up as when we come back.
As always, it's good to be back. It's been a long time. It's been a long time. You was in another
time without you, my friend.
But we're here to talk about the latest Marvel blockbuster. So we're gonna start off with the new guy first. Let's start off with Jay first. Yeah, Jay goes first. So, what did you think?
Overall, long story short, I loved it. There was, I liked pretty much everything they did. There were a couple small little nitpicks. I loved catching all the Easter eggs, and I saw it on the first day, so I was sitting there, and while everybody else was like, "What just happened?" I was reacting to pretty much everything, like, "Crimson Cow! Oh my God, it's Ulysses S. Claw! Oh shit, they dropped Wakanda! Oh damn! Oh, Hulkbuster fight!" I was just reacting to everything. People were just looking at me like, "Is this kid ever gonna shut up?" And nope, I am not.
Favorite scene? Yeah, you got a favorite scene?
Favorite scene when Wanda comes out of that door and she just starts wrecking shit. Just, oh man, that was awesome. Or her little fatality moment with Ultron. That was definitely up there too.
All right. But wait a minute. What? Yeah, we see. But right there, we just got to say what it's already been set. There's going to be some spoilers in here, so if you haven't seen it. There was a wrestler named Spoiler. Yeah, and there's a hero named Spoiler. Spoiler. Okay. Next up, Kyle. Did you like it?
Okay. Yes, I very much did. When I did my initial review on Facebook, I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars, and I was generally kind of worried about this movie and excited when we saw the trailers because you kind of have to be with these movies nowadays. I mean, because you never know if they're going to work or if they're going to fail miserably. And I really enjoyed it quite a lot. It's a far superior film to the Avengers, the first one. I still like the first movie, but it's not, a perfect movie. This came close to being a damn near perfect film. If we're talking favorite scenes, I'd have. That's a hard one. Because I like every scene Ultron's in. I'm gonna be honest, he's one of my favorite things about this movie. But I like the Hulkbuster fight with him and Hulk, Tony and Hulk going at it, and or just the scene where they're fighting all the Ultron bots, and you just see that nice widescreen shot of them just like doing all their thing. There was a lot of cool moments for me, but overall, yes, I did enjoy it. It was a fantastic film for me.
All right, Nick. All right, Steve. Go. The clock. Click, click, click.
I actually am. I was the only one out of all of us that actually kind of saw it, I guess you could say, I guess you could say I was the one that like watched it the latest. I actually ended up watching it on Mother's Day because my mother actually wanted to see the film with me. So that was my little treat to her for Mother's Day, and it was also kind of a treat for myself and when I watched it, I went in with the expectation of, okay, this is going to be a fun movie, which is what you should do nowadays when you watch a lot of these comic book movies. I knew it wasn't going to be all that much of a sophisticated plot. I figured it was going to be like Avengers 1, where it was going to be very action heavy, and it ended up surprising me because there was a lot of depth to the story. There was a lot of good character development leading to not only their individual movies, but for the next time when we see Infinity War and we see all these characters come together. The thing that I very much enjoyed, definitely the opening scene, definitely was probably one of my favorite scenes. I mean, and let's be honest, the selfie shot, as I jokingly call it, where they're all in slow motion and they're all together. It's like, and I kept laughing at a lot of like the little things in this movie, like just the little tidbits, like especially towards the end, the thing with Hawkeye being called old man by Quicksilver and him just like, oh, you little bastard, they wouldn't know. You wouldn't. It's like, just the thing about it is the jokes didn't feel like they were forced like in a lot of the films. It felt like the dialogue had a natural flow. It's like when something was funny, it was funny. When something was serious, it was serious. And every character to me really worked. I mean, the thing that I like, especially building to Civil War, although there's been a lot of doubt casted to it, I hope that I'm wrong with it, but we see Tony kind of going down his Civil War path where he's becoming a little bit more arrogant. We see that he's making a lot more mistakes, and he's kind of just basically becoming the same asshole that we saw him in Iron Man 2, where he's really got no redeemable qualities for the most part. I do like the stuff with Cap. I thought that they did evolve Steve's character a little bit. I kind of understand where a lot of people were coming from with Black Widow and like certain parts of her character in this movie. But I really think that a lot of that, like her and Scarlet Witch, were very over-exaggerated in terms of, oh, they're the two most underrated characters because they're women. No, the minute I saw Wanda on screen, I was very nervous about Wanda because Wanda is one of those characters from the comics, especially a comic book character in general, that her powers are they're very difficult to, I guess you could say, from a creative standpoint, to put onto a film. So I was very accepting of the way that Joss Whedon got around that, and she came across exactly to me like the Scarlet Witch that you would read in the books. I didn't mind Quicksilver. Quicksilver to me was just, he was kind of there. I'm sorry, I have nothing against Kick-Ass himself. I thought that he did well with what he was given. Although I have a feeling that we'll see Pietro come back because anybody who has seen the movie, there was no marked grave for Quicksilver. So, and when he made a comment in an interview saying it's the Marvel Universe, they brought Coulson back from his death in Avengers. So I don't think that Quicksilver. I think Quicksilver will probably get the same kind of treatment. But it was also kind of amazing to see all the different character things. I do question the Thor one a little bit, especially leading into Ragnarok, just a tad bit. But I do especially love the teamwork between Cap and Thor. Yeah. That's the one thing that kind of bothered me. It felt kind of like Cap and Thor were the ones that were really combining their skill sets, whereas I'm like, okay, how come we're not seeing Hulk and Tony do something? How come we're not seeing Hawkeye and Hulk do something? It's like it seemed like they focused more on Thor and Cap doing like double team moves rather than seeing Tony and the rest of the team. I'm like, this is supposed to be a team. Why are like the two like most popular and two badass characters are the only ones that are like actually like doing stuff together, like combinational attacks? But I think overall, probably the highlight of this film, and everybody in this chat can pretty much, agree with me on this. James Spader killed it as Ultron, absolutely killed it. Mm-hmm. That was one thing that really worried me, because when you saw him in the trailers and everything, you're like, okay, Ultron looks like a Transformer. He's got a humanoid face, humanoid, voice. He actually shows expressions, but the way that they built Ultron in this movie, guys, was so well done and so phenomenal. He was both, and of course, this is James Spader. Anybody who's seen James Spader in anything, the guy is a phenomenal enough actor that he could say something absolutely absurd and make it sound terrifying or make it actually sound humorous. Yeah. And I think one of the great qualities that really made you love Ultron in this film as well is that he was mimicking Tony Stark, but he was doing it in a way that it was meant to put Tony down. It was supposed to mock Tony for who he's trying to be as Iron Man. And it was also fun, to have that little geek out moment with the Hulkbuster fight. The one thing I don't like, though, and this is a big nitpick for me, especially reading comments and reviews for this movie, was the whole, I felt like, very shoehorned and very, ham-fed, oh, well, we have to show the Avengers saving people while all this stuff is going on, just so that way it's not like Man of Steel. And that's a trend with audiences that I really wish, very bluntly, would fucking stop, because it's getting to the point of absurdity and annoyance now. We get it. Clark wasn't saving civilians in Man of Steel. Metropolis was being leveled to the ground. We get it. DC even admitted that they made a mistake. That even Zack Snyder admitted that he didn't do as great a job as he would have liked. Let it go, people. You don't need to be, and that's something that I heard that Marvel did to Joss, rather than Joss doing a lot of stuff that he wanted to do with Age of Ultron. We're now hearing that, well, Marvel had all these critiques and all this stuff, and one of the things was to shoehorn and ham and fist us with, oh, the Avengers have to be shown to save civilians. I don't mind if they show scenes of that. Don't get me wrong, guys, but when it's every other scene, I'm like, okay, we get it. They're saving people. You don't need to cram it down our throats. It's ridiculous. But I mean, everything else I loved about the movie, and I think certainly for me, best part of the movie in terms of my favorite scene. Definitely, my absolute favorite scene definitely was the introduction of Vision. That to me, that was a Marvel cinematic moment when we saw, in a sense, the birth of Vision. And actually, seeing it first, he's essentially kind of naked, but then, we actually see almost, I'm presuming it's nanites that inhabited his body, but it's just actually seeing, the cape form, seeing his outfit.
I think he mimicked more of Thor. He looked at Thor.
He was like, "Oh, Thor looks cool. He has a cape."
He looked at Thor's cape and like, "Okay, I got a cape."
But and a lot of people are like, "Well, he doesn't have the solar gem." I was fine with him having the Mind Stone. That didn't bother me. I was okay with the fact of them explaining that. I was also. It's funny because a lot of people have bitched up a storm, and it's really kind of sad and pathetic that everybody, especially the hardcore comic fans, because we all know those people love to bitch, talking about, well, Vision never lifted the hammer in the comics, and Vision can't do that. Oh, he used his density powers to alter Thor's hammer. First off, Vision didn't do shit. The only thing that Vision did was lift the hammer, and if you listen to what Paul Bettany said, what was the first thing that Vision said when the Avengers confronted him? I'm on the side of life, meaning that, and that's something with Paul Bettany's performance that I really loved as Vision. Yeah. He injected more personality into cinematic Vision than comic book Vision did. He actually felt like he had weight. He felt like he had a personality. And the thing that I also love, that especially with Paul Bettany and the way that he acts, is he came across very Zen-like and very almost like a Buddhist monk, and I rather actually digged that because it actually worked for explaining Vision's character. But I loved the scene. I loved the symbolism of him being the one out of all the Avengers to lift the hammer, simply because Vision. He's on the side of life. He cherishes all life, even if it's, the most evil. It could be the most evil person on the planet. He will not kill that person because, they have a life. In his eyes, they have a soul. Mm-hmm. And I love that added character to Vision. And I think the thing, and I'm calling this right now, especially because of the way that Ultron was built up. I don't think we don't see him destroy the last Ultron bot. My theory is I think he actually disabled that Ultron bot, actually locked Ultron within that bot, buried it away from civilization, and at some later and almost instance like put Ultron in isolation to get him to rethink his lifestyle, or at some point try to come back and try to rehabilitate him, get him to see that yes, humanity is not that bad. But that was something that I really did love, was the dialogue between Ultron, that whole speech between Ultron and Vision. It's like, they're doomed, aren't they? And he's like, yes, they are. But and I love the most beautiful line, I almost quoted it on Facebook, was when Vision said, I've looked at the dark side of humanity. He goes, but there is grace in their failures. And that was, to me, that was such a beautiful line, because it is kind of true. Us as human beings, yes, we fail a lot, but there's a certain grace to when we fail, and our ability to adapt and, if not overcome, the adversities that we face every single day. Just to be able to live, to be able to grow as people and breathe. And I like that, there's a certain symbolism that's what Vision, that's what Vision, an android who looks at us almost very similar to his comic counterpart, very curious about humanity, very curious as to why we are the way that we are, but also understanding that we are set in our ways. And of course I have to at least end my long-winded rant with simply, fuck Joss Whedon and Marvel for that tease at the end. That was bullshit.
Oh yeah.
We almost had it, guys. We almost actually heard Avengers Assemble fully in the movie, and they cut it off right at the credits just to tease us even more.
I said that right before I went into the movie too on Facebook. I was like, all I need to hear is those 2 words, and I'll be good.
We almost got them. But it was also kind of fun to see a lot of the characters come back too, and certainly leading from the end of this movie into Civil War, I gotta say I am digging Anthony Mackie's new look as Falcon. That when I saw that, I was like, that if that's the closest thing that we're gonna get to comic book Falcon, I'm all for it.
I gotta say too that I'm glad that Rhodey is no longer Iron Patriot. Because now
seeing him come back as Spider-Man was actually kind of cool.
Spider-Man, we could get Norman Osborn and the real Iron Patriot, maybe. I don't know.
So
overall, though, guys, it's definitely all of us in this room, we all pretty much enjoyed it, whether for our own reasons, but. Overall, guys, if you haven't
to everybody. Okay, Malcolm, how'd you feel about it? I enjoyed Avengers: Age of Ultron. I think, I'm not gonna lie, I think it was a better, from coming off the first one, but not gonna lie, I think the first experience of watching Avengers in the movie theater, I think I had a better first experience watching the first one, because I felt like I was leading the charge of that crowd when all that action was going on. But I enjoyed Age of Ultron for it being kind of having themes. You saw a little bit of Beauty of the Beast with Scarlet and the Hulk. You saw, humanity, while it has its faults, and with Ultron, because Ultron has some good quotes about humanity as well. Even one that made me think, it was one before Scarlet Witch read his mind. I forget word by word. And Ultron, I think it made sense for him to have Tony's personality if he's being made by Tony. Because if he was made by Hank Pym, I can understand why he doesn't have the sense of humor. So I wasn't, he's got a sense of humor. Now, I'm not going to lie, when the TV spot came, he made a joke. I remember I turned up like, did Ultron just make a joke? So I was like, wait, he made a joke. And I agree with Steve about, that was the first thing I commended. Well, was Thor and Captain America's teamwork. Yeah. I applauded that. I was like, that's some good teamwork. And if there was any double team, the constant in that movie, it was Steve's shield. Mostly everybody used Steve's shield.
Yeah, everybody would use Steve's shield.
Iron Man used it, Scarlet Witch, and Steve. I'm like, That's the team.
I like the moment when Hawkeye used it though, because that's a shout out to the fact that Hawkeye can actually throw it.
He threw it. I was like,
Hawkeye's was the best to use because Clint can throw it accurate and catch it without breaking his arm or something like that.
And I like that Josh Whedon, he kept his word about Hawkeye.
Yeah.
He stayed by his word. Because when they went to Hawkeye's safe house, they say no. See the kid. I'm like,
Did you guys think about Ninja Turtles when you saw the farm? Because that's the first thing I thought about. I thought it was Ninja Turtles. I was like, are they going to the O'Neill farm right now?
Oh, we're talking about the farmhouse. Yeah, okay.
Oh yeah. Now I get the reference. I mean, it was a good character development for Hawkeye, and it gave a kind of a good, like, if that was his send off, we got the reason for his send off. Like, he's got a family.
It also, I also agree the fact that, like I said in my solo review, is the fact that to the average moviegoer, it gave people a reason to care for Hawkeye now.
That's what you gotta do for your character.
You know, it gave you a reason. It gave you a reason now to care for him instead of just saying, "Oh, he was just that Archer guy that was just there. Why should I care for him if he dies?" You know, it was more like.
Also, he had one of the funniest scenes too. With that, he was basically like, "I'm not doing that shit again."
Yeah.
His callback to the first one.
Yeah.
Like me and Chris said, when we saw that Tuesday, there was not that many people in the movie theaters. Well, also, I don't know if anybody got that reference. It was like, yeah, I've had my share of being mind control. I was like, I get the callback. And as far as, the Hulkbuster scene, me and Kyle was talking about this like the other day. In terms of Tony and Hulk fighting within, I think that was
Johannesburg.
And I remember Josh Whedon having an interview he was talking about Man of Steel, and he was talking about, with the civilians and everything. And I actually did not mind. I did not mind seeing, like, for instance, when the elevator scene, even we were like, oh, shoot, there's still people in there. Yeah. And you see Tony, I still got to catch people. And even when you saw Tony was, like, even you said, Tony, get the fight out of Johannesburg. You saw he's trying to get it out of the city, but you still got Hulk scratching and and he was like, all right, I'm just going to drop you in this construction site. So I think I don't think it was really that force-fed. I mean, especially the scene where where were they in the last scene? Where were they?
Sokovia.
Yeah. When that scene right there, I don't see how could you not show them saving people. I mean, the whole town is going up.
That's a whole country right there, just lifting up into space.
And when the lady fell, and then
Cap tried to catch her.
Yeah, and then Thor, and I think Thor, I know you're not going to throw her and zoom in. I'm like, okay.
Yo, that was funny.
I like that, that they showed, also going back to the Johannesburg scene. I really like when Hulk came to his senses, how it actually affected him. He started seeing people like their horror, and like you saw the effect like it had on him. I was like, that was a good scene.
Yeah, that was really good.
I'll just never forget the callback to Avengers 1 with Tony just punching him out of nowhere.
Also, something that I didn't catch till I watched it later is that the whole satellite thing, that's an Archie reference, because Bruce's I guess ex-girlfriend is Betty. What does Tony call his satellite? Veronica.
Oh yeah, that's right. I didn't catch that. Wow,
look at that Archie, right?
Archie, yeah.
I didn't notice that until I watched it the second time. I'm like, oh wait, Betty, Veronica, that's funny.
Yeah, I didn't know. Sorry, I didn't know until Kyle told me that. He
played Hawkeye's
was Velma.
Yeah.
Like, oh wait. Like, see, I'm so used to seeing her as Velma. I never saw her without looking like Velma.
Yeah.
For me,
yeah.
I liked it myself. Like I said, I love the dynamics of the character. It very much played a lot of dynamics with the characters. Mm-hmm. But the one thing that I kind of nitpicked at was the way they did Baron von Strucker, because I was like, I had to put aside that my knowledge of this guy's like, this guy is a threat. And in this version,
no surrender.
No surrender.
No surrender. Okay, I surrender. surrender.
Oh, that's not Strucker. And then
he died.
And he died. Yeah, Ultron.
He died.
You don't even see his death scene.
You don't see his death scene.
Strucker's dead.
And then it's once again, it's like what Lamar said. It's like it makes me want to see the director's cut even more because of all that footage that was taken out of it.
I think that's one thing about Age of Ultron. I think it's a pro and a little bit of con that if you really look at this movie, it's kind of dependent on the director's cut. But there are some movies where you're like, okay, I got everything. But with Age of Ultron, even your first view, you can tell, there's some stuff that's out of this movie that probably needs to be in to actually make it feel complete. Like, for instance, I agree with everybody that says that in terms of Thor's, his character arc, that kind of felt like just jammed in.
And that came out of nowhere. Thor and his magical field trip to the jacuzzi, like, what's going on here?
I also felt that the way they portrayed the twins in terms of the dynamics of the twins in terms of how Wanda and Pietro are supposed to be. Pietro being very protective of his sister. I was I
thought that was cool.
That was straight up.
And I also liked how they did their combinations, because their combinations were straight out of the comics. I was watching that and I'm like, oh shit, that's pretty much how they work.
You know why Pietro was protector of Wanda also, right? Why? Because he was also a quicker version of Nico Bellic.
Oh yeah. Okay. Let's all right. The accent.
Why do you talk like this?
I did not mind.
I liked Wanda's accent.
Didn't mind the accent. I didn't mind
the thing that was funny is that Elizabeth Olsen, she slipped out of it. Like, you could tell when she slipped out of it, because like sometimes she'll be speaking in a normal voice, then she'll go back to talking like this.
One thing about Scarlet Witch, and this is why I've got to shun the whole Whedon being a
sexist.
No, yeah. And I like what my friend Nate says, but he had Scarlet Witch basically wreak havoc on anybody that came her way. He gave the biggest hit to the Avengers. When Tony said we took a hit, that hit came from freaking Scarlet Witch going around it.
Yeah.
I that was also the biggest thing. I mean, I will agree that was a good scene. Like, just seeing, here she is kind of freaking out a little bit, and then here's Hawkeye giving her a pep talk. Like, look, okay, people gonna get hurt, all right, but I love when it may have sounded kind of corny, but yeah, if you walk out that door, you're an Avenger.
I think that's the coolest thing about that is that Hawkeye, Wanda, and Pietro, they show that relationship in the movie, and they joined the Avengers at the same time, and they were all three of them were reformed villains, so they were all trying to redeem themselves and be better.
The thing that I think also gave Hawkeye weight in that scene, and I agree with a lot of people whether you want to look at it in this context or not, but Clint is the most normal of all the Avengers characters, so if anything, it gives Hawkeye more weight when he gives that speech, especially the little especially the little corny joke. It's like, I'm facing an army of robots with a bow and arrow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
None of this makes sense. None of this shit makes sense right now.
It always was played up like that with Clint. It was the fact that he's one of the few Avengers out of the entire people who's been Avengers that has no powers, and he's still looked at as an equal with all these powers.
And he still was badass standing next to all the other characters, and that's something that I think Joss Whedon did well in this movie compared to the first one, where all we kind of saw the best of his skills was at the end. This one, they actually gave him more to do.
He got mine in the first 5 minutes of the movie.
And plus, let's be honest. Him sticking that taser arrow in Wanda's head, that was funny.
The funniest shit. He was just like, nope, I'm not doing that shit again.
So
that was funny.
I guess
there's one more thing I wanted to comment on.
What was that?
Because this was something me and Phil was talking about. Is that I would have liked to see. I thought when Rhodey came at the end, I said, Oh, is Falcon behind him? Because I was
thinking too.
That's the one nitpick that I have is that I really feel Sam should have been there.
Yeah, I felt Rhodey got his first little bit of action as an Avenger, which kind of segued into him becoming about it. And I'm thinking, okay, the same will go for Sam because eventually he becomes a Avenger. I'm like, hey, couldn't you have both of them?
And that's why I'm thinking that that's some scenes that have been cut out.
That's probably something that will be in the director's cut too. That was my thought. And let's be honest.
If we're still talking about nitpicks, though, like real quick, I know we didn't really talk about this, and I know Chris talked about this in his solo review. The Hulk not talking, and the fact
that's gonna be a nitpick for a long time.
That's a nitpick that I will always have. It's like.
No, like the fact that Tony stole the line from him is like, right, don't mention Puny Banner, I got it.
Yeah, it's
like, why didn't Hulk just say that?
It's to the point now. I think we all want to see him talk. I mean, I've said it before. I was like, I would love to see the Earth's Mightiest Heroes Hulk from Avengers.
I love that.
I would love to see him actually.
That Hulk is great.
You know, instead of like just and just making noises and grunting and things. It's time to actually talk. So let's go to some of the Easter eggs. Okay, look, the first one I think I want to talk about because that's the one that got me the most was seeing Ulysses S. Claw.
Yes.
Oh my God, that was I once they started mentioning because I love how Bruce couldn't mention
Wakanda.
He was like Wakanaga. He's like Wakanda, and just hearing them talk about vibranium and things like that and. He's like, oh, I know this guy.
No, but let's not forget, though, Chris, the dramatic pause and the simultaneous turn to look at Steve's shield.
Yeah. Everybody looks at, because it makes sense. It's like maybe this will be played up somewhere in Agent Carter is like where Howard got the vibranium from them. But, somebody asked me on Twitter, how come Ulysses, he was asking me, a friend asked me on Twitter, he said, what's the difference between Wakandan vibranium and Antarctic vibranium? And I told him the differences about it.
One is anti-metal, one is regular. One absorbs energy, one can basically disintegrate metal.
Disintegrate any type of metal whatsoever, including adamantium.
And then I started telling him also, it's like, well, you got to remember, that's Antarctic vibranium is only found in the Savage Land. And the Savage Land is more significant with the X-Men. So we're not going to have that. Then he said, how come if it is the Wakandan vibranium, how come if he stole it, how come he ain't dead? And I'm like, you know what? With all due respect,
technically they branded him. They even mentioned
there's a strike system.
And that's why I even liked it even more. It was like the symbolism of what would you rather be killed or you have a brand on you for life, quoting thief. And I was like, that makes even more sense of the Wakandans branding him. Yeah, you're a thief. To remember us by. And I loved it.
It's basically giving him like a scarlet letter, like that whole thing with like having the A on your chest. Or something.
You know what though, we do need to address at least two things here. Number one, how fucking dirty Claw looked. I mean, did he even shower?
Yeah, he looked like that was just nothing but like dried up sweat all over and just turned into dirt. He looked
so I googled cuttlefish after that movie, and I'm like, okay, he has a point.
Yeah, Kyle, are you familiar with Ulysses Claw? Familiar with him? When he showed up, were you familiar with him?
Yeah, because everybody had been talking about it, and I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, he was in Earth's Mightiest Heroes. So
yes, he was.
He was.
And then the part that Malcolm remembered when he got his arm cut, he literally got his arm cut.
Like everyone in my theater, that whole theater was silent because this was the first day. The theater was silent. I was like, yo!
I literally looked at that and I was just shaking my head like, really? This is how you're going to explain him losing his arm? He makes a Tony Stark remark, and Ultron just pulls his arm off like Sub-Zero or Spawn or something.
Basically, Ultron got butthurt about it. He's like,
don't bring my dad into this conversation. I am not my dad.
I love
it. Just like threw him down the stairs, and when he threw him down the stairs, I'm like, okay, now this feels normal again.
I love what he was like. Whoa, you just called Kyle. Oh, go ahead, Kyle. What you say?
When you were saying Tony Stark, I never got to mention nitpicks, but one nitpick I kind of had was I kind of wish we had more interaction between Iron Man and Ultron, because for what little we got, it was amazing. I loved their interaction.
Yeah, that's another big thing that you can tell was cut out too, because usually with Ultron they do that whole build up of him being like the good robot, and then eventually, becoming the Skynet type of Terminator type of robot.
Like, that's why I thought in the end that it was going to be Iron Man and Ultron doing the fighting, because it would feel natural, okay? Creator versus,
But I guess it was more they wanted more symbolism, being like the father and the son.
I think the symbolism was more life versus death, because Vision was more representing life, Ultron was more representing death.
Because to me, once Ultron said "my vision," I was like, oh, that geeked me out right there, just to hear that.
And I'm not gonna lie, when we actually saw like him quote unquote kill Jarvis, it's like, even though it's fully CG and they're basically two AIs, it's like you felt that.
Yeah, I would just like, you bastard, you can't just do that. He was cool.
It's like killing Alfred. Like, what did he ever do?
Yeah,
what did Alfred ever do to you? Like, did he give you a bad cup of tea or something?
The other thing I also loved about it was we kind of got a glimpse of the Red Room, which I was so happy they mentioned. I was like, yeah, the Red Room. Yeah, they mentioned.
I like that. Because we got to see only a little bit of it on Agent Carter with like Dottie and stuff.
Yeah, we only got a little bit of, and it was so great to see it. Like, you see them training in ballet and stuff, because
that was cool.
Because people get Widow was a ballerina.
She was a ballerina originally.
Yeah, and we get to see them train, and then they're mentioning that she can't have children, which is true. She can't. Something with her metabolic rate. She can't have kids. Kind of like a little bit.
I was kind of hoping that they would have there was gonna be like a shadowy figure in the background of her Red Room dream, and it would be like, that's Red Guardian right there, or there's Yolanda Bellanova.
Or what would be a nice little way to tie into Winter Soldier is a suppressed memory where she sees a figure with a metal arm, because if none of you guys have read the comics. Bucky in the comics was actually the one that trained Natasha in the Red Room.
Right.
And they formed a very strong relationship. She even says, she loves all the men she's been with. She loves for different reasons, but the man that she truly loves is James Barnes.
Yeah, James. Bucky. But yeah, it was good to see Claw.
I think a great Easter egg that really it didn't even get caught by people. You actually had to read to find this out. But when Steve did that band scene,
the Roy Thomas band.
The band that's playing in that scene, guys, is called the Roy Thomas Players. That's a nod to Roy Thomas, who, if you guys don't know, he's the guy who co-created Ultron and Vision. So that's like the closest thing to a cameo that he's ever gonna get.
Yep, and then another Easter egg that like nobody I know caught when I was watching it was Ultron actually does the whole Crimson Cowl persona when he first meets the twins, because he's wearing the cloak.
Yeah, he was. That's right, he was.
He's wearing the red cloak, and he's like, what used to mean? It's like, I'm not a man, and I'm like, oh, that's Crimson Cowl. That's so cool. Are you gonna form the Masters of Evil now?
I hope this is also kind of what's to come for Steve, in terms of, we saw Falcon talking about, so you found any location in Brooklyn again, and he's like, I can't find, like, basically talking about the high price of Brooklyn.
Can you imagine they do that whole arc with Steve being an artist and being an artist?
They kind of played that up. See, that's a deleted scene in the first Avengers, because you see Steve doing his artwork. And the waitress that he saved talks to him. He's like, so you looking for the big guy? And he's like, what? And he's like, Iron Man. He flies by from time to time. And then Stan Lee says, why didn't you get her number? And so, but I'm hoping.
Speaking of Stan, let's.
Oh my God, that was the funniest Stan Lee
talk about probably one of the more, like, aside from Amazing Spider-Man, probably one of the more funnier Stan Lee like cameos. Him getting drunk and having to be carried out of Avengers.
They took that straight out of the Ultimate comics because Ultimate Cap, he always went drinking with his old World War II buddies.
Yeah. Okay, here's the question. Okay, everybody gets a chance to ask you. I'll start with Kyle. Kyle, how funny was it that when anybody cursed, Steve was like, language?
Yeah, and
oh my gosh.
That was something that I've seen done in other places, like other movies or TV shows, and it's really annoying. But here, it was able to span the whole film, and I wasn't annoyed with that joke at all.
It was funny.
Yeah, it was really funny. And you got to give props to the whole cast and Whedon for making it not annoying. It was funny throughout the whole film, and it's a meme now. It's
Yep.
It's
there's this whole Uncle Sam picture of Cap, and it says, "I want you to watch your language."
Yeah,
I think it fits with Cap because it comes from, like, for instance, like we always everybody calls Superman the Boy Scout. So if Superman was to do it, it would fit. Okay, Superman. So Captain America does it.
You gotta remember that's a time period that he's from.
Yeah, and also, like, the man, like, people don't realize it because, he looks so young, but the man is 90 years old. He's, like, 90-plus years old.
And plus, on top of that, I love the dialogue afterwards when he tells Tony, he goes, sorry, it just kind of slipped out. It's like Steve trying to... I love that little subtlety that most people probably wouldn't pick up on, but you guys got to remember, Steve is a man out of time, so it was kind of nice to see, like, little subtle nods that, yeah, he's still... Even past, Winter Soldier, he's still struggling to deal with our time and our customs.
Side question, though. Do you guys think he's done with the list? You think he crossed out everything on the list?
No, I don't think so.
You're going to keep adding some stuff.
He's probably still adding stuff to it.
I wonder, because you saw 2 Girls, 1 Cup was on the list. I wonder if he actually did that. I'm like, I bet you Tony put that on there. Tony's the one that put it on there.
Who knows? Because, everything he's been doing as of late, because he's probably been looking for Bucky and then Avengers, so I don't think he's had time to get done with the list at all. So.
Yeah, maybe he's just listening to Marvin Gaye while he's on mission, just put it on his iPod, if he has an iPod.
No, I like it. And me and Kyle talked about this the other day. I like that Ultron actually had, like, a heart for twins. Even when they were about to break away from.
And you actually also see that he especially loved Wanda.
Yeah,
Wanda was one that he really was attached to.
Yeah,
he wasn't just like, you're gonna defy me, blah. No, he was like, please don't do this. Like, don't do it.
The other thing I also is that show the female version of Amadeus show.
No. Show
his mother.
Dr. Cho is his mother. Dr. Cho is his mother.
Yeah, I'm thinking that was Amadeus Cho's mother.
I'm still thinking Amadeus Cho can be the MCU version of Iron Lad.
The only thing, though, with Amadeus being introduced, if they're going to introduce Amadeus, introduce him if Herc gets his own movie. It only seems like that would be fitting.
Yeah, because he had more of a relationship with Herc than Hulk, even though he says I'm Hulk's best friend, which we all know that's not true because
that's Rick's job.
But Rick has never been added to any of the movies, and so we got any comments?
Yeah, we got one from J Flo.
Jarrett?
Yes.
What did he say?
You are all back. I'm so excited. I think this was a fantastic movie. Great character building, a threatening villain, story plots that were followed up, and consequences for characters' actions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We got from I Am Superman 1993, and this thing.
That's Callum.
Yeah,
I knew that was Callum.
That's Callum.
That's Callum. And I pronounced your name right, dude. Like Callum. So.
That's Callum.
I knew it was him. Why? Because I'm like, I've seen this long post before. I'm like, man, wasn't this on Callum's Facebook? Look at this thing. This thing is
paragraph long. I looked at it. I was like,
1, 2. This thing is 3 paragraphs long, and the 2 middle paragraphs can be split up and make it 4 or 5 more paragraphs.
I figured Callum.
I knew that was Callum.
I figured he would be right. So what? Just give a gist of what he said.
Okay. I really do like this film a lot, and I'm someone who hates the first film, as we all know.
Right.
But there are some issues, like some thematic stuff, felt a little undercooked. You can tell with some characters like Thor and Quicksilver. However, that being said, this is the Avengers film I've been waiting for. Well, the first thing that makes this film better than the first one is that there is an actually interesting story to be found here. I know, right? You can tell a lot of influence that Josh Whedon has used for this film to represent certain character arcs. These will include the likes of Pinocchio for Ultron, Hansel and Gretel for Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver,
Right.
Beauty and the Beast for Hulk and Black Widow, and some similarities to classic literature/cinema such as Frankenstein for Iron Man, Empire Strikes Back for Captain America, The Godfather Part 2 for Hawkeye, and of course, Shakespeare for Thor. See, once I saw that, I knew. I'm like, I've seen this.
I definitely get the vibe. You know, I've said it before. I'll never be able to watch Pinocchio sing that song straight because of
Got no strength.
and they played it in the movie.
Make me frown.
Yeah. It's like, oh, Nick, I remember in the movie there comes Chris. Oh no.
Yeah. And then,
but you know what made that funny though is when Hulk jumped in the Quinjet, the Hulk wasn't jumping in there to get revenge on Ultron. He just got tired of hearing fucking no strings.
Yeah, for God.
He just said,
I love
turn
that.
off
For
that
God's
damn
sake. Ultron just starts trying to fly and he just falls straight to the earth.
that's that.
How about hypocritical of Ultron that the one real kill he got, he used a human weapon.
Yeah.
He didn't get to him like, look at how hypocritical he is.
The other thing also is now in terms of
that reminds me of like one of my favorite lines from Ultron though. The greatest substance in the world, and the humans use it to make a frisbee.
Oh yeah.
And now the biggest thing is what happens to Hulk now? Where did he go?
Yeah.
Where did he go? As Kyle, let's start off with you, Kyle.
Kyle had something to say about it.
Go ahead, Kyle.
Well, actually, apparently, well, he in the film he just goes in the water. So I mean, Hulk went to Atlantis or something like that. But we originally wanted to have the Quinjet go up into space, so that way. But Marvel wouldn't do that, and
he also wanted to do Grey Hulk too.
Yeah, but Marvel would not let Josh Whedon do that. In terms of where he could be, probably sitting down watching Sesame Street like he was an Incredible Hulk. So
you don't want a Cookie Monster maniac Cookie Monster. Yeah, I was you.
The Cookie Monster who beat up the Power Rangers. You don't want to mess with that one.
But
You mean fatalitying the Power Rangers?
There was another one too. There's another bit. He attacks somebody. So that's what you think he is, Kyle? He's just chilling somewhere in Fiji?
I think he just wants to be left alone now. I think that's honestly from what I was getting. He just wanted to be left alone, and this is the last. And I do have a side comment. Mark Ruffalo. I know a lot of people like Edward Norton or think Mark Ruffalo is a bad actor, but I like him as Hulk and Bruce Banner, and it's a shame we haven't seen him a lot in this cinematic universe. Yeah. It's 2 films.
That's Universal's fault.
Yeah.
That's Universal because they still own the rights to the movies.
Well, I'm not talking about his solo ones. He could easily co-star in someone else's. He could co-star in Iron Man 4. There's been issues where Tony and him work together.
That's what I'm saying. That's what that came from the first one. That carried over the second one. You saw a lot of scenes with Bruce and Tony, which is sharing a lot of dialogue. And you know what else I noticed about this one? In the second one, you saw a lot of scenes with the Avengers Trinity standing next to each other. Thor, Cap, and Iron Man. I was like, they're together a lot.
And go ahead, Kyle. What was you gonna say? You was gonna say something?
This is totally off subject of Hulk, but when we were talking about I forget what we were talking about, but I have to say this is one of those films that does a really good job of launching other films to come like this.
Oh yeah, they set up at least 5 movies.
Yeah, but I only picked up on 3, which were Thor Ragnarok, Civil War, and the Black Panther. But the only one I didn't like was the Thor Ragnarok one, and there's a reason why that got cut. Because all we see of Thor is him just going in the water and electrifying himself like a fish. Because The scene is.
You mean the shroom scene, as I call it?
Yeah, because.
Yep, the magic jacuzzi.
Yeah, because apparently there was an advanced screening or like a first screening for the film, and that was in the cut, like the theatrical, and people like were leaving notes apparently, and they were like, "What is this doing in the movie?" Like, and they were feeling like this doesn't work here. It's totally out of place, and it's the pacing just stopped dead, and it was people didn't like it. It wasn't well received at all, and Josh wanted to keep it, but he couldn't. So.
So we got Idris Elba coming. Good story. He killed us all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Loki's part was cut out of there too. Loki had a scene in there too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm still kind of mad Greyhawk was cut out because Greyhawk actually talks.
Yeah, we probably would have heard Joe Fixit. We would have heard Joe Fixit talk.
Honestly, I think that's why Joss is probably not going to do the next Avengers movie on top of maybe working with Marvel again, because from what I've been hearing through the rumor mill and the dirt sheet kind of stuff, not just Greyhawk and all that stuff, but essentially from what I've been reading, Marvel really was very much dictating to Joss how they wanted him to do Avengers 2, and how they didn't really give him very much creative freedom, and you have to do it like this. And I look at that and I'm like, no, there's a difference between wanting to set up your universe and wanting to establish characters, but still letting the director do what they want to do. From what this sounds like, it sounds like Joss Whedon had no creative freedom. Marvel wanted him to do it exactly how they wanted it done. Otherwise, he was not going to get to do the movie at all. Which I look at that and I go, that's really kind of shitty on Marvel's part. Like, let the dude have a little bit of creative freedom. To be able to do whatever he wants, but still be able to shoehorn like Black Panther and all these other characters in. That to me, when you do stuff like that, it makes you truly wonder, like, is Marvel getting a big head about their cinematic universe? Like, especially if you guys haven't been reading about this, there's been a lot of stuff, especially in Germany and smaller theaters, that are basically getting charged by Marvel to basically give half of their ticket revenues to basically give back to Disney, which honestly, to me, that's pretty damn ridiculous, because Disney makes trillions of dollars. Why are they overcharging theaters to want to show Age of Ultron? And on top of that, when you have movie theaters basically telling Disney that, you may be cutting distribution for wanting to show your movie in our theaters, but we could sue you for unfairly trying to overcharge us. It's becoming basically like one big debacle. So it's like Age of Ultron, while it is a fun movie, it's a movie that's causing a lot of controversy too, behind the scenes. With Joss Whedon, with theaters getting overcharged to show distribution of the movie, it's like, it's kind of starting to make you wonder. It's like, are Marvel and Disney basically getting big heads about this? Because if so, that's going to bite them in the ass later on.
I will agree.
Especially when Star Wars comes out.
Well, it kind of just sounds pretty funny, because I thought Josh Whedon said he did Avengers for he can do Age of Ultron, as if he can get his own movie.
Yeah,
Because
go ahead.
Oh, okay. Yeah, like you were saying, because he made Avengers, so that was like his, hey, I'm giving you this, I'm playing ball with you guys, and I'm going to make my own movie. Marvel fought Josh Whedon on a lot of things in Avengers Age of Ultron. Like, Josh Whedon, like the whole new Avengers scene we saw, he wanted to add Spider-Man and Captain Marvel, but his film was already done shooting.
Yeah, which is why they used Wanda's power template is actually what they originally had cut for Carol.
Okay, but yeah, this is mostly the film he wants to make, and at least there was a lot cut. This film is about 2 hours and 21 minutes. I do think it could have been 30 minutes longer, but at least Marvel was nice enough to put out a director's cut, which will be 3 hours long, which will be Whedon's baby basically, and Whedon's been wanting to do this movie since he was 14.
Yeah, he's always that. Remember, he said, "Just give me Ultron." That's all he wanted. He wanted Ultron.
So I don't know how much of what you read, Steve, is true on what terms of Josh and Marvel, but
even for me, Cal, it's a lot of speculation. It really is. a lot of it is very much speculation, Kyle, but it's just the fact that all these reports, true or false, are coming out is not painting a very good picture of Disney slash Marvel. It's making them basically look like greedy assholes, even more so than Warner Brothers and DC, and that's not good.
Well,
That's not good for their PR.
You can look at it as this: either they're coming across that, or it's just people are making them look like that.
You know how to
make it. It's the you can't really, as my professor Torres always say, media. If there was no such thing as the First Amendment, there would be no media to twist everything. There would be no media. You got to really. That's why when any reports come out,
I would say the only report that to me really truly seems actually true is the movie theater thing. That to me seems like the only one that seems a little bit legit, especially with the whole smaller theaters thing. The one about Germany though, I can't, I understand, Germany is a very indie film heavy country. And I'm fine with the fact that they are, actually utilizing their right to boycott the movie, very peacefully. If they're boycotting it peacefully, I'm fine with that. But there's a lot of, radical indie filmmakers and stuff that are trying to purposely, quote unquote, sabotage Age of Ultron because films like that are what are killing the indie market. And I look at that statement with a question mark above my head because, okay, yeah, it's a big-time film. A lot of people are looking forward to it, but how is that killing the indie film market exactly?
I think the biggest thing also is to understand is that, you got to understand that this was a big movie, and you got your indie movies, and most indie movies are well done and put together, even on a small budget, but this was.
What the saying is that like Marvel is Disney saying, okay, out of all movies, you're gonna overcharge our movie and at the expense of all the other. And if you look at it, it's not going to because it's about to be swamped with the superhero movie.
But in terms of the move, when we see the new Avengers new facility, that was pretty cool.
That was awesome.
And the fact that, didn't that feel, when I looked at that scene, it felt like a little bit that they took a little bit of how the Watchtower in Justice League Unlimited.
Yeah.
Because they have all the other crew members doing everything, and then you got.
Actually, I was thinking because the facility to me looked like Happy Harbor. Like that's what it looked like to me. It reminded me of Happy Harbor.
You know what it reminded me of, actually? Even though it's technically was not near water, I kept looking at the new Avengers facility, and I'm like, why does this look like this facility more belongs in like a Thunderbolts movie?
Yeah. It did.
That's true.
And then, of course, I love how Steve, it's only now, it seems only Steve and Widow, the veteran members, and the new team. And I love how Steve quoted them. He's like, well, they're not the 1927 Yankees. And I'm like, and nobody got that reference.
That is like the best Yankees lineup.
Best Yankee lineup team. So. And he's like, and then I love what Widow said, yeah, but we got some heavy hitters. And to look at that lineup right there,
very diverse.
It's pretty well put together, and it's very diverse too.
Yeah, because we got Caucasian, we got black, and we got pink.
We got a robot.
Like remember I said, we basically have a Neapolitan. Ice cream sandwich.
I do like that Rhodey.
Oh yeah, Neapolitan ice cream sandwich.
I do like the fact that Rhodey is back as War Machine because that's his baby. That's Rhodey. That's who he's supposed to be.
And maybe we can actually get a real Iron Patriot now. That's what I'm saying.
I definitely agree with Steve. I was hoping maybe Sam would have been white and red. But I was just like, all right, it looks good.
I loved it.
I wanted my headpiece for Wanda, though. That was my thing.
Yeah,
I
Wanda
wanted my headpiece.
And like she highlighted her hair.
Yeah, she looked like she highlighted her hair.
She had, and she was also wearing like the Uncanny Avengers uniform, except without the headpiece. That was bothering me the whole time. I'm like, you got to put the headpiece on.
And then of course, and then the tease came, and I'm like, oh. But then of course, here comes the mid credit. If you want something done, do it yourself. Oh. Now, everybody gets a chance to talk about that scene. Now, all right, Malcolm, you go first.
You better live. They better have him live up to that.
Yeah.
He comes on the scene because I remember talking with Nate. He was like, if they really want to do the Infinity Gauntlet right, if they really want to do it right, Thanos is probably going to have to kill half of the Marvel because he did it. If I read it, he did it with just a snap of it, literally the snap of his finger.
I want to see that scene actually happen, where he just stands on the edge of like the shrine and he just goes snap, and then half of the population just disappears.
Like, oh shoot.
So yeah, Jeremy, that scene,
how man,
thick was that?
My first reaction to that scene was, oh shit, he left the chair.
Yeah, he left the chair.
Y'all are in trouble now, because that's the first thing I said in Guardians. That's the first thing I said. The first Avengers at the end there. I'm like, y'all better hope he doesn't leave that chair, because the second he leaves
we should have said that in Guardians when Ronan was talking shit to him.
Yeah.
Yep.
Kyle, what was your thoughts on that?
Well, I think I told Steve this, but I didn't get to see the mid-credit scene in the theater because I had to pee. Okay?
Yeah, you did. That was sad.
And you know what? Look, I like these mid-credit scenes, but if I gotta pee, I gotta go.
Exactly. It's a 2-hour movie.
But I did see it on YouTube, and I was like, ooh, this is pretty cool, and I had the same reaction as Jeremy, but I remember when I saw Avengers, I was like, you guys think he's terrifying now? Wait till he gets his ass up off that chair.
Oh, no, the most terrifying thing I think that we're going to see when we actually see him in Infinity War, and I want to see it because it's actually been documented in the comics, I want to see him one-punch the Hulk.
Yes.
Because a lot of people don't realize that Thanos is strong enough that he knocked out the Hulk in one punch.
Yeah, he did.
One Avenger they just need to bring on that could end Infinity War. All they got to do is get Squirrel Girl. It's done.
Squirrel Girl beat him.
I'm telling you right now, I understand that. I'm hoping that they'll actually bring him into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and I hope that he's the one that actually ends the Infinity War movies. But please, I hope Marvel brings in Adam Warlock, because that's who I badly want to see debut in the MCU.
Are we gonna get Mati also, who I like to call him Mati, because Eros is pretty much just Mati, because all he does is use the power of heart.
Yeah.
I swear, I better not see Star Fox. I really don't want to see Star Fox.
No, Star Fox. He was another.
The real Star Fox. This is Star Fox in Marvel.
Yeah, he was kind of a joke.
Not McCloud.
No, we did get to see the Warlock's cocoon in the collector's chamber. So
it's broken. It's broken.
So he could have been out there.
Thanos has been in that church for long. So when he got it, he didn't say, cramps.
Yeah, cramps. Butt cramps. All I'm saying is
he's got hemorrhoids sitting on the chair.
I'm surprised the chair didn't actually break. I'm looking at that. I'm like, yo, his throne looks kind of small.
All I'm saying is the fact that Marvel has said that, as we were talking about it, they've said that humor is the backbone of their movies, and they will never force dark.
Thanos can't make jokes.
Thanos has to be natural.
I said it before. Thanos, Infinity War, and Civil War. Those should be the most serious because they are serious. They're serious stories. And I agree with the girl on IGN that at times Civil War should feel a bit uncomfortable.
Well, her name's Ross.
Yeah, Ross. It should feel a little bit uncomfortable. And I feel Infinity Gauntlet feel uncomfortable. I would like usually do. I think we'll probably set Infinity Gauntlet apart from the other movie. If the first part ends with Thanos win, like he wins the first, when it ends with a Dun dun dun. And, okay,
Yep.
part 2.
You mean kind of like how they did in Harry Potter, where
Yeah.
Voldemort.
Yeah, Harry died. Yeah, Harry died in the first
Yeah,
part.
I mean, okay, if you're gonna have part 1 and part 2, like how does that feel? Thanos loses in part 1. He comes back in part 2, like minutes after, and I lose in both parts.
The one thing I'm thinking that I definitely want to see in terms of is being the fact that Kevin Feige has said that Carol will be the strongest.
Yep.
the
Stronger
hero.
than Cap, Hulk, and Thor.
So literally, I'm hoping we see a fight between her and Thanos. Like, okay,
You think the Guardians?
But the thing that I'm curious with Civil War though, and I have a theory about this. Since Spider-Man's probably not going to play the same role he did in Civil War, I think they're going to give that role to Scott. I think that's what. Because if you notice Scott's mask, it covers his whole face.
Yeah,
So-
you're talking about Scott Lang. Yeah.
Yeah.
And since the fact that it is in their contracts that the people from the Netflix series they can do movies as well, I doubt that we'll see Charlie Cox's Daredevil, because he is the only other character in the Marvel Cinematic Universe that has a secret identity. Secret identities are not big in this universe. Everybody knows everybody. Steve's identity is completely out there. Everybody knows
Yep.
him.
And then Widow and Clint all got leaked when Shield fell, because they got the whole list of Shield agents when Shield's secrets leaked.
So it makes sense that if it is somebody that's going to fill that role of that Spider-Man void, but we are going to see him supposedly, in there. I mean, the cast is really big, and we saw what Crossbones is going to look like, and I
love it.
I like the look.
I thought that was cool.
It's very
Army
of two tactical armor. I'm like, yeah, that works fine with me. I have
I'm still not feeling it. He
I
looks
wonder if
totally
they're
like
gonna
a
go
G.I. Joe
full on. I wonder if they're
ripoff.
gonna go full on Crossbones with it. Like let's say he's going up against Sam. I want to see if he's gonna be that full on just evil racist dude.
Oh,
Has Disney ever really went full on like racist? Have a racist character in terms of with humans. They've done it in themes with animals and stuff.
I don't know, because they also Baron Zemo's in there. Look at him. He's a bigger Nazi.
I can at least see them doing a little bit of New York Undercover. Like, hey, get out of my way. Say it.
Oh yeah.
It begins with it. And
Yeah.
wham, and then punch.
Say
Wham.
it. But it didn't seem like the only thing that when they first fought and Winter Soldier was he just said, "You're out of your element, kid."
Yeah, kid.
And that was it. And then Sam just said, "Shut the hell up." And that was about it, But
Yeah, and I wonder if they're gonna have a rival. Holy crud! I messed up that word, but I wonder if they're gonna fight in Civil War, because Sam's kind of the reason for why it's fucked up in the face.
I think it's also gonna be like I also think that Bucky is gonna play a big part into what causes the whole thing between Tony and Steve, because there's the whole thing that Bucky was the one that killed Howard, so there's and Steve wants to redeem Bucky and all that stuff.
And also Sharon plays a big role in this too. Like they said, her role is.
I'm so excited for that, because I was so pissed that Emily Van Camp only got like 1.5 scenes.
And
You know what I would love to see in Civil War, especially if they go with the whole like death of Captain America thing at the end. If Steve actually does get killed, I think the final fight should be Bucky carrying the shield, actually fighting Crossbones. Like that, to me, that would be like a great final fight of the movie. Like Bucky actually picking up the shield, going after Crossbones, and getting revenge, but not killing Crossbones.
Oh, also, with the funeral scene picture that leaked, we pretty much can figure out whose funeral it is.
Yeah, that's Peggy. That's Peggy's funeral. I mean, they should have never put that British flag on it. I was like,
Yeah, that was the dead giveaway.
Not only that, you put the British flag, and then you see Steve on the side, like, okay, so that's not Cap's dad.
yeah, it's not Cap's dad.
And thanks to Kyle, we might not, the final scene of Civil War, it might not even be Steve versus Tony, because there is going to be a villain in the movie instead of how with Civil War it was just Steve and Tony with their beliefs going against each other. So there's actually going to be a villain.
I will say this, that the Civil War will be a lot different from its comic counterpart because of the fact of it was the Civil War. Even though I'm not a big fan of that story arc, the main gist of it was identity. You know, here we are heroes. You use these identities.
It's the whole should heroes
It's
be
also
really...
accountability.
Yeah,
It's accountability too.
and it's also
not even just accountability, but I think it was also the fact of it did deal very heavily with identity, but it also raised the question, not to comic book fans, but just it raised the philosophical question: do heroes that wear masks, should they be held accountable by the law and be considered vigilantes? Those that don't want to share their identity to the public, but are doing so for unselfish reasons. They're doing it to protect their friends, to protect their family. They want to remain anonymous. Versus, okay, the government wants to have, no secrets. They don't want vigilantes for fear that it will cause anarchy, but also it's all about, order and, maintaining control and making sure that, these individuals have, skills that we could use, and it's also about basically militarizing superheroes. And that's the great philosophy that I loved, was Tony thought that superheroes should be militarized. They should be on call. They should work with the government. And I think the thing that made it so shocking when Cap went against the government, but also why in a sense in the Civil War I was with the anti-registration, was because the things that Steve said in that series made a lot of sense, which is there's nothing wrong with working with the government, but heroes should never have to work for the government. They should not be regulated and be told, hey, you're going to save these people, but you're going to do it however we tell you to do it. And that to me was a great symbolism to Steve's cause, and it's also very true. You should not be a hero because somebody tells you you should. You should be a hero because you want to be a hero.
Then there's also the fact that it also played a little bit of the fact of remember how they always wanted to register mutants. So everybody should get registered, and
And Shield is doing that right now with the indexing in humans too. So that's a big thing.
In a sense with the Inhumans, and how much they're gonna have to, like, they say that, what is it, Thor really will really shape more of the world even more in terms of the outcome and the future of the cinematic universe. I hope so. With Thor, for me, I think Ragnarok really has to hit a home run. It really does, because if you look at Thor's solo movies, accountable, those were probably some of the weakest out of the cinematic universe's movies.
I mean, they had good moments, but overall, as movies, they weren't like that good. Like I love the funeral scene for Frigga. That was great.
But it needs to be more than what it, and then you're talking about if it's going to be Surtur in there, and it's like, okay, this is Surtur. You're not supposed to be joking around with this guy. This is a demon that is taken very seriously. When the Asgardians hear his name, it's like it shakes fear in them. It's like, oh boy.
All right, Stevie Trophy call it names that you run away from.
Yeah, and so Thor's definitely has to play a big role. To me, Doctor Strange is going to open up the supernatural world big time.
Oh, and something really interesting that you find out about Doctor Strange is Wanda is going to be also appearing in Doctor Strange as his apprentice.
Oh,
so
really? Oh, okay.
That's going to be, so it turns out that her powers do have a little bit of magical ability to them.
So no Wong. Oh, they got to have Wong in there.
I think Wong is still going to be there, but I think that Clea was. I think at this point Clea's already done her lessons, so like Wanda's going to be his next apprentice.
Okay. So, but still, I feel that Doctor Strange is going to open up the supernatural world big time. So we could probably see him maybe fighting. Maybe him say, I fought this demon called Zarathos. I put him away, and then you see Mephisto giving it to some guy called, well, it could be some biker named Johnny Blaze. Here, you want to help you? Here, takes on the demon Zarathos.
You know what though? I think to me, what would actually be cool with Doctor Strange is especially if they introduce a lot of the mystical artifacts. Like, actually, I think what would be really cool is when you're going through the Sanctum Sanctorum, Wanda, sees this dagger, and when she goes to touch it, Stephen grabs her hand and he goes, you don't want to touch that dagger. That dagger, actually dissolves or neutralizes magic. And that'd be a nice little like nod to Silver Dagger, a very obscure villain, or have the Wand of Watum, and all these artifacts that we associate with Strange. But I think what would actually be really cool is if Strange in a containment glass has part of the dream world to be able to tie Nightmare in there.
Nightmare, yeah.
Oh yeah.
That'd be cool.
There is a rumor about Infinity War that I was informed about, and I didn't look up too much on, but there's a rumor that apparently for the first part of Infinity War, RDJ, Evans, and Hemsworth might sit out. They might have Thor and them sit out.
That's what I heard too. That they won't come in until the second part. And from what they said, that both parts are not just two separate parts of the movie. They're actually two story arcs that connect into one big story arc.
So, but overall, we all enjoyed it, and you look forward to these movies. I mean, I remember seeing a lot of people say the biggest movies they're looking forward to this summer, and nobody put it. But I was like, you know what, guys, don't forget Ant-Man. I'm looking forward to.
I'm really looking forward to Ant-Man.
I think honestly, even though Ant-Man looks weak now, I'm gonna predict it, guys. I think it's gonna be as fun as Guardians. It's gonna be a film.
I was gonna say that it pulls a Guardians.
It's gonna pull a Guardians. It's not gonna be a movie that's gonna be meant to be taken all too seriously. It's gonna be a movie that's gonna have a lot of fun moments, but it's gonna have a seriousness. And also, if you really think about it, Ant-Man has a message.
Mm-hmm.
Which honestly, you look at Scott Lang's character. He's a thief that, in a sense, is going to take up the mantle of a hero to not only save his daughter, but also prove to himself. I mean, I love Paul Rudd's line. He goes, well, not Paul Rudd, but Michael Douglas, but just the line of saying, it's like, don't you want to be the hero for once? And, Paul Rudd's character saying, I do want to make a clean start. I do want to become a hero. And I think also Ant-Man is significant for many different levels, but the one that me, Chris, and everybody else has been saying, guys, in the MCU, this is going to be the first time we're going to have a legacy character in these films.
Oh, you mentioned you were the first one to tell us that. I had to think about it. I was like, yeah, that's right.
That's true. Yeah, I think that's awesome. I actually had to explain to my dad who Scott Lang was, because he used to read, he only used to read old school Marvel. He's like, so where's Hank at? He's like, oh well, Hank went through all this crazy stuff where he was Yellow Jacket, then he was Wasp, and then he was Yellow Jacket.
He went insane, and he developed an alternate personality, became schizophrenic.
And leading to Scott. I hope that this leads to Young Avengers. That's all I'm pushing for. All I need to see is that.
You are still pushing the fact that because we see a young Cassie, that you just so badly want to see Wiccan and Hulkling and all them show up.
Look, man, Vision and Scarlet Witch had that little connection there, and if they're magic babies, they can just age, they can just age whatever they want. And
What is they gonna have Fairly Odd Parents? No, because Vision and Wanda had kids at one point, and it's like, where the hell that happened? How'd that happen? And you find
out that they were magical constructs, and somehow, even after the events of House of M, Wiccan and his brother still somehow were still able to become flesh and blood.
They technically weren't born; they were reincarnated. But then that's that whole complicated thing. And like I also said, Clint's daughter. We never hear her name. She could be Kate Bishop Barton. I'm just saying. And then and that last scene in Ant-Man. That last scene in Ant-Man is Cassie has the new heart and she shrinks. That's where it's gonna sell me for that.
I think that although I think definitely with Ant-Man, I think during the final fight, they're probably saving it. But I think the final fight, especially with Yellow Jacket, it's either going to be a kaiju-esque battle or it's going to be, somehow Scott figuring out that the Pym particles don't just shrink him but can enlarge him, and he basically, I want to see a Giant Man moment where he just punches Yellow Jacket straight into the concrete.
I want to see like a reverse of the Thomas the Tank Engine thing, because that would be hilarious.
I think the thing about me is still, even as much as I've watched the trailer, guys, it's just like that scene where he's running on top of the gun. I love that scene. It's just like and he just
and even the fact that Mike Douglas is Hank Pym, well, not just Hank Pym, but I think it was actually more Hope, says that even at your shrunken size, you'll still maintain your same level of strength.
Yeah, he's like, he got. He flips up on the pistol and it shoots actually, and you see him run, and then, Kyle, we talked about it. It was like that's one of our favorite scenes. It's like just seeing him run up on the gun, and then he looked like he broke that guy's neck.
Yeah, where he just slams a dude by his tie. That was awesome.
I think definitely, the favorite scene for me, as corny and cheesy as it is, I love the scene with Scott running with the ants right beside him. It's like, that is a classic Ant-Man panel.
I love that. He's in the ant burrow and he sees like the baby.
And what I like about Scott is, and they do this in his current series too, he actually names his ants.
Yeah.
I think the cooler part is when they see like the beginning parts of the helmet or like the psychic connection, when you just see him, he has his eyes closed, when you see the 3 ants flip the penny. I'm like, okay, it's like, I like that. It's it's showing that Scott is getting used to using the instruments inside the helmet.
Mm-hmm.
And the other one for me was the fact that in the original teaser we got to see where he's on the flying ant, and when it come down,
the queen ant.
It looks like a helicopter. I was like, that works. It's gonna be interesting to see where this leads into with Scott, and will Scott become an Avenger? Because a lot of people have always been saying,
I'm hoping that that's a post-credit sequence, but I think what's also great about Ant-Man, if they're doing it in correlation and in line, Ant-Man is going to introduce us to Luke first before the Netflix series.
Could be. Well, the first person we get introduced to Luke is through Jessica Jones.
That's true. And Jessica Jones dated Scott also, so.
And Jessica Jones, her series comes out this fall. So I think it's October. October or November is one of them.
It's November. I think it's October.
Yeah. So, well, with everything said, this was the last of Phase 2, right?
No.
Ant-Man is the official last of Phase 2.
Okay, so then we had this was the penultimate. So Ant-Man is the last, and then we move into Phase 3. And being that the Marvel movies will go on to 2028, it makes you wonder what's coming next, And
And are we even going to bother with post-credit sequences, since we already know the movies that are coming out?
Yeah, that's a good question. There you go. That's a real good question. It's like, is it needed for post-credit scenes anymore, unless it's something that we don't know about? Because if you're going to say, because the one thing for me personally was like, in Age of Ultron, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., since they were doing the Inhumans there, I was wondering if they were going to say, the royal family's not going to like this.
Or you just hear just this sound that's just shh.
Yeah, I thought they were going to start mentioning like the family the family's not going to like this giant.
No, I think what would have been a hilarious scene or a nice nod, not actually show her, but you should see, Mr. Hyde getting tortured, like Mr. Hyde goes to try to escape a room, and right as he's getting out the door, you see like red strands of hair, almost Sindel, like actually grab him and yank him back into the room. Yeah, like I would have freaked at that.
So, but other than that, guys, we enjoyed the movie. From what the comments that we got, it seems that everybody else did enjoy it. Kyle, you got something to say?
Yeah, I guess we were doing closing like statements or something like that.
Yeah, in closing, so good.
Yeah. Well, you probably can't see me, guys, because my camera's all blurry. But 2015 has been a great year for Marvel. So far, you got I believe Agent Carter started this early this year. That was a great net show.
Yep.
Daredevil, amazing Netflix show. And the Marvel has had a good year so far, and if I think you guys will like this movie. If you haven't seen it, check it out. It's a fantastic movie. But if you don't like the Marvel movies, you won't like this. This is for Marvel fans, and yeah, this was a great year so far for Marvel, and I really appreciate this movie, and I think Josh Whedon went out with a bang. Definitely, if this is his last Marvel movie forever, he went out with a bang. So
just say thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, he went on a high note. That's more than a lot of people can say.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for me, my closing statement is all those people out there that been saying, we want a Black Widow movie. How come Carol's being the first out of the Marvel females to get her movie first? For me, it's always just wait.
But also, you got to think about it like this, though. Her name is Captain Marvel.
Yeah. Just wait.
That's your closing.
And she's the most popular character in the comics right now. Like,
and, the other thing is the fact is, like, if you are a fan of just these movies in general, you're gonna support them. Even if there's things that you don't like, because there's things in the movies that I don't like, and that's why I have to always go into some of these movies and just like, this is the Marvel Cinematic Universe. This is not the comic universe. They take essence of those and they mix it up. Like for example, with Hawkeye, they went Ultimate Hawkeye with him having a family like that and things like that.
Marvel Cinematic Universe has already shown signs of using a lot of Ultimate stuff.
Yep.
Because they use Ultimate Fury and they use like the Triskelion.
You touch on Nick in that.
But what did Nick Fury really do?
He came in like
he came
in like a shadow.
He came in like a shadow.
Gave a little pep.
and then he brought the helicarrier, which somehow one of those was still left.
Yeah, he said I got it out of mothballs.
Actually, Fitz built that. They explained that on Shield. Fitz built that.
But you know what though? What was actually kind of interesting, and I felt bad for him, was that curly-haired technician that got beat up in Winter Soldier still could not make a joke and seem cool.
Oh yeah, the one that Crossbones was like, "Is there a problem?"
Yeah,
that guy. He was in it again. I thought that was funny.
Oh, really?
So, Jay, your closing statement.
Well, Age of Ultron, I really enjoyed it. I think it was a really good movie. I think it was a real push for the new characters as much as, our returning veterans, and I think it's going to be really cool to see what the new Avengers have, in store, whether it includes, T'Challa, Pete, and, Carol. But I'm really excited for T'Challa. I'm a huge Black Panther fan, and I can't wait to see that happen. I'm counting down the days for that, for real.
My God.
What?
This Kyle just pulled off a Lewis.
What did you do?
Pulled off a comic book one. Just put in a comic into the camera.
I did it on purpose.
That was the one question that I forgot to ask everybody is like, is basically did we see the last of like count down the days to Vision? Because what does he have in the right?
That was my first thought.
These are definitely numbered.
I said Thanos' first victim.
Is Vision Thanos'
No, I don't think Vision is going to be Thanos' first victim. I think a better way to do it is that's how they end part one. Is like during the final confrontation in part one, it ends with Vision just getting ripped.
And
that would be a better content.
And Thanos just taking the mind gem away from it, but
yep.
Yeah, we might have not have talked about thematic stuff or overall storytelling or the villain of Ultron, but I think we all were very much pleased with this film in general. Like Ultron was amazing.
Yeah, Spader killed it on many different levels.
That's yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Jeremy.
No, that's cool. I
But
was just gonna say, like, he's in my top three. Like Ultron and Ultron, Fisk, and Loki are my top three MCU villains right now.
I would just have it be Fisk and Ultron. But if we're just talking movies, Ultron is the best out of all of them.
Yeah, well, except for that scene when Fisk, killed Ben Urich, and he had that weird orgasmic face that they had to do that close-up on Vincent D'Onofrio's face for. I don't ever want to see a shot like that again, because I'm just looking at that, I'm like, oh, why did you shoot him like that?
Just remember, were you scared because you look at yourself as Fisk from the Daredevil shows?
That was like the one comment, guys, that I keep joking about with Kyle and everybody. It's like, the more I watch Daredevil, the more I'm like, was Marvel watching me? Because they're making Fisk seem a little too much like me.
But you brought my mother.
Yeah, you brought my.
No. Because remember that scene, Malcolm? It's like, do you think, does that not make me a monster? Am I?
Oh yeah. Does that make me a monster? Am I?
Oh boy! All right. So, but other than that, we got give Steve the last.
Yeah, let me get my closing thoughts so we can end this video already.
After hour stuff, guys. But go ahead.
No, but
I'm gonna be.
no, I was gonna pull up my copy of Rage of Ultron to try to hold up, but I forgot that I got it in the bottom tote of like all my comics and stuff behind my chair here. So I was like, you know what, whatever. I'll do a cheap promotional thing, at some point later. But for me, it's funny because this was probably, and as much as I'd hate to toot my own horn and seem like I'm bragging, I went into this not just as a comic fan, but I went into Age of Ultron as a creative, being somebody who is slowly breaking into the comics industry. So I didn't just look at this as a fan, but I looked at it also as a creative. I looked at the story, I looked at the character interactions, and I really could dissect in my head what Joss Whedon was trying to do with central themes, with character development. But to me, thus far, I would say right next to Winter Soldier, Iron Man 1, and despite the fact that they are kind of the weakest of the movies, I put this with Thor 1 in terms of the fact that we had so much character development, we had so many cool moments, so many moments that, genuinely every character literally did not feel stale. Every character had a fresh perspective. The story kept you going. Were the Avengers going to succeed? Were they not going to succeed? And ultimately, what we got with this movie was we got a movie that, as you so lovingly put it, Kyle, minus a few minor nitpicks, it was a near pitch perfect movie. If there was ever something that really captured the epitome of a comic book movie, Age of Ultron did that. It felt like a comic come to life. It had, a story. It had, compelling characters. It had everything that you would want, whether it was from a comic, from a movie, just from anything in general. It overall felt like it encompassed so many great elements. And when it all came together at the end, and even, with the ending credits, the thing that I loved that people were like, oh, I don't like that half of the core cast left, and I had to keep explaining to people that have never read the comics, or even people that have read the comics but still were like, oh, I don't like that Hulk is gone, I don't like that Thor is gone, and I'm like, well, let's be honest, some of these characters, whether it be the actors getting too old, but some of these characters need to move on so that these new characters can come in. That's the thing. It's just like the Justice League guys. The Avengers have had so many different members and so many different roster changes that, it's almost inevitable that some characters are going to die and some characters are going to be replaced. And honestly, I like the fact that, we now have Rhodey and we now have Falcon and we now have Vision and Scarlet Witch. But yet we still have some familiarity going into Civil War and, future films with Steve and Natasha, and who's to say that even though he's retired from being Iron Man, we won't see Tony make cameos from time to time. So there still will be some familiarity, guys. But to me, overall, like I've told people, I'm like, this by far to me, compared to the first film, and I'm gonna take another movie quote. To quote, "This is Spinal Tap." Joss Whedon turned it straight to 11 with this movie. Like everything that you did not like about the first one, or that you thought was kind of a little bit like off, he pretty much corrected and fixed. And honestly, if you guys are sitting here watching this video and you haven't seen the movie yet, what the hell is wrong with you? Why are you watching a video with us spoiling the entire damn movie for you? But at the same time, you know what, guys? It was a fun ride. It was a fun movie. And honestly, I think all of us, especially those of us who are big fans of Ultron, this movie really gave us an interpretation of probably one of our favorite Marvel villains and do him very much justice. Because that was the one thing that was really, I think, scary, for me and for Chris and a lot of other people, guys, was how is Whedon going to do Ultron? And what we got was probably, I would say, not only one of the best villains, aside from Loki, in the MCU, but we got one of the best villain performances in this cinematic universe thus far. And who better to play a character as complex and as menacing as Ultron than James Spader? So I'm hoping Ultron will actually come back. I'm pretty sure he will, because I think the way that they've set him up, it would be very much a crying shame if we didn't see Ultron return in the future. So that's pretty much my closing thoughts.
Okay, Mo. Close it out.
And Jon Snow.
Jon Snow, save the motherfucking day. Yeah.
Jon Snow, he still knows nothing, Kyle. He still knows nothing.
He knows nothing.
Not Jon Snow.
He doesn't even know anything about this movie. So.
No, he's not even in this movie.
Yeah. Doesn't know anything about peace. Age of Ultron, I think the main goal of a sequel is to be better than the first. I think that's the idea you have for every sequel. And unfortunately, when it comes to third ones, it does not work out so well. But this is the second installment of the Avengers, and it's a 2 thumbs up. I know over time with the Avengers, it seemed like Avengers when it first came out, didn't really hear anything no complaints about it. And I don't know. It's like, I guess it was one of those situations where after the hype went down, cooled off, people just started really looking more into the movie, and then that's what we got. I really overhyped this movie. It's not that good now with Avengers 2. Already, people are already commenting on what they complained about in the first one. With it felt like it was all plot or no story. While with Avengers or with Age of Ultron, it felt like you got the plot and you got the story. You had many themes, and it wasn't really subtle themes. The themes really popped out instantly. Like, Callum put in Godfather 2. The only reason why I would not get that is because I get to see all of the Godfather movies. I would see the first one, so I wouldn't get. But I bet you if I watched this Godfather 2, I would pick up on it. James Spader, I had no doubts for him as Ultron. I don't even watch the Blacklist, but you just see his character. I was like, just looking at him, like, yeah, he's a good person for a villain. And Ultron, I think every scene he was in, he took the camera and rolled with it and ran with it. It was like when Heath Ledger as the Joker. I don't think there was any scene with Heath Ledger as the Joker in Dark Knight that he wasn't like, oh man, that was good, And Kyle's one of Callum, they've always brought up that's what they got the reference. They kind of got a feeling of Heath Ledger's Joker with Ultron, and I can definitely see that. And it was good for the character arcs, to get to know the characters a little bit better. Especially with Hawkeye, he needed it the most.
He needed it because, like, if you're not a comic fan, you're just not going to care about Hawkeye.
Right, he needed it the most.
So it was good that Hawkeye got that. We got a reason for him. Got a reason to care about him. We even got a reason for if he was to die. We imagine the consequences of what we told.
I honestly thought he was gonna die. I didn't expect it to be Quicksilver.
Yeah, I thought so too. Like Hawkeye's gonna sacrifice himself, but turned out to be Quicksilver, which kind of surprised Chris. That Pietro, they killed him off. But Avengers, this is the penultimate ultimate movie for Phase 2, and I think it did its part. Hopefully, Ant-Man closes everything out greatly. No matter how coming into it, people have mixed feelings about it. Hopefully, maybe Steve was right. It'd be like the Guardians of the Galaxy. How initially, this probably might be the first chink in Marvel's armor, and sort of that it turned out to be the opposite. Now, but Age of Ultron better than the first one. First, that's his main objective. Did his job. Everything that was in the first one added up like to 11, like Steve said. Did that. Better villain. Because sometimes with sequels, the more you get, the less a threat the villain gets. But hopefully, it doesn't seem like that's going to be the case with the Avengers. We went from Loki, we went from Ultron, now we're going to Thanos. Because Ultron, I think, physically did more than Loki could ever do in the first movie.
Oh, yeah.
Because it was mostly the freaking Chitara. What is it? Chitara. You said right. Chitara doing everything. And
the shit, Charlie.
Yeah. Ultron, he was mostly, even though his bots were like, cannon fodder, but he still played a part in everything. And
Thor.
A couple of good.
A lot of people wallop Thor. Yeah. Dude, you gotta be honest.
That was funny when he was like, Thor, you are annoying me.
I've always, and everybody knows that Marvel Cinematic Thor is weak compared to his counterpart. Yep. He is completely weak. It's annoying kind of to me.
It's almost laughable. Like if you put comic Thor against movie Thor, comic Thor would kick movie Thor's ass.
No way, good way to end it. After watching Age of Ultron, and you're a Marvel fan, you're just an action movie fan, it's time to go Boston. After you come out, you're like, more than a feeling, more than a feeling. And I don't know the rest of the lyrics, but I could be dreaming. I could be.
You don't know the rest.
No, that's actually part of it. I could be dreaming.
No, you don't know the rest of the when he says more than a feeling.
That goes out the window. Just like Thor almost did in the first movie. no, just like Tony Stark did in the first movie. Out the window.
Oh, you talking when Loki threw?
Yeah.
Also, Thor is a very rude house guest because he does not care about lawn care when he's getting heimdalled to someone.
I know. That was funny when Tony was like, "This guy is a dick to people's lawn."
Anyway, guys, thank you for watching. The core is back. We'll do this again sometime. But you'll see different roster. We'll be just like the Avengers. Roster will change. From time to time, you'll have your key element characters, but then you have different rosters. But it was good to have this be like the return to talk about, the Avengers. But we'll be back again, when time suits us.
What is this? Like, or I shall return.
Yeah, we shall return.
Or Sam Jackson.
Best Pringles flavor ever.
He said, "We'll come back when we're needed most." So
there you go.
And this video has been brought to you by cheeseburger flavored Pringles
and Batman.
And Batman.
And Batman. Look at Jason.
Oh yeah.
And the funny part is, we're doing a Marvel video. I'm wearing a DC shirt.
And I'm wearing Spider-Man.
I have Spider-Man on his Amazing Fantasy.
Hey man, I could have chose to have my Spider-Man wall in the background, but I didn't feel like getting up.
The fact that Jay stole my Flash hat.
This is not the X-Men shirt.
Oh yeah, the famous.
His uncanny. Anyway, guys, take care.
I knew the